We're really glad that you're our friend, and this is a friendship that'll never ever end.
Hola, mi amigos! Today, we have a very special lesson planned for you.
Stranger danger! Stranger danger! Stranger danger! Stranger!
Rambling Rabbit, what's got your tail all tied in a knot?
Dude, I saw a stranger with our friend Seth and Braun.
A stranger, you say? You mean Stone Cold Steve Austin? Yes, and what are you going to do about it?
Strangers are bad people. You always stop them.
Kurt Angle, Mick Foley, Finn Balor. Hey, the Fiend hurt those.
My clock has been stuck at 3:16 ever since Stone Cold stopped by.
Stranger danger!
Stranger danger. Okay,
Stranger danger.
Stranger, please.
Stranger danger. Stranger danger.
Please.
Stranger danger.
Quiet! Yowie wowie! Guys, we take turns talking here in the fun house. Abby, let me fix your clock.
Not again, dude!
See, Abby? Now your clock is right as rain. Anaskas, in another life, those bozos took something very dear to me. They practically invoked the Fiend. But Steve, he's just an old rattlesnake. And you can't blame a rattlesnake for doing rattlesnake things. Guys, remember, strangers are just friends you haven't made yet. I mean, look at what Seth and Braun did tonight. Cedric and those Viking guys were 3 strangers. Now Seth and Braun have a trio of new friends. Unfortunately, friends won't help where you're going. You see, friends forgive, but the Fiend never forgets. See you in hell! Bye! See ya! See ya! Bye!
We're really glad that you're our friend, and this is a friendship that'll never ever end.
All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Please don't make any sudden moves. You don't know the half of the abuse. All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Please don't make any sudden moves. You don't know the half of the abuse. Welcome to the room of people who have rooms of people that they love one day docked away. Just because we check the guns at the door doesn't mean our brains will change from hand grenades. You love another psychopath sitting next to you. You love another murderer sitting next to you. You think I'd get it sitting next to you. But after all I've said, please don't forget. All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Please don't make any sudden moves. You don't know the half of the abuse. We don't deal with outsiders very well. They say newcomers have a certain smell. Yeah, trust issues not to mention. They say they can smell your intentions. You laughing on the freak show sitting next to you. You laugh some weird people sitting next to you. You think I did did I get here sitting next to you? But after all I've said, please don't forget. All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Please don't make any sudden moves. You don't know the half of the abuse. Why'd you come? You knew you should have stayed. I tried to warn you just to stay away. And now they're outside ready to buzz. It looks like you might be one of us.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 172 of the Hoots podcast. It's yours truly, Josh Lopez. I am flying solo this week. You can follow me on Twitter at the Hoots podcast. Also, you can follow me on Instagram, Joshie Lopez 94. I also have a music page. You can follow me there at Josh Lopez Music. The podcast is on every single Thursday on Spotify, Stitcher, Anchor. The show's sponsored by Anchor and Spotify, by the way. Shout out to all you good people who continue to listen to the show week in and week out. We thank you for the support. Make sure to bookmark ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com. For any shows that you're unable to watch on television, I got you covered with my play-by-play articles. Really quick, I'd be remiss without mentioning and giving out a quick salute to the guys, to the New Age Insiders who had their final Wrestling New Age Insider show last night. I don't think we need to bring up the elephant in the room, but I will. But I think some of you know that there was a little contention between myself and that network as I exit the pipe bomb. And just any situation in life, you can always look at things through rose-colored glasses. You can look at things not working out for one reason or another. But I like to look at both sides of the story. I didn't like the way how things were dealt with, the way me and B-Rob were kicked out of the pipe bomb in the NAI network. But I'm not happy with myself and how I conducted myself. That was just a very weird time period for me where I was exiting the WrestleZone and trying to do my own thing. And the pipe bomb and this show was keeping me happy, you know. And I just didn't like the way how that ended. And over the past couple months, or say a year or so, I got more in touch and reconciled with Liam Stryker and Bill Neville from New Age Insiders. I respect those guys and giving me the platform for the opportunity to be on the pipe bomb. More of my issues of me leaving that show had to do more with Matt than they had to do with any of the guys that are on the main NAI show. Just for those who are wondering or maybe wanting context as to my issues, I'm not a drama-driven person. I'm not. It was a bad situation. I'm not proud of how I handled myself during that time period, and it's a lesson that I learned over time. And I'll admit I was immature at the time. Just looking back at how things went, I could have handled it better. But those are the opportunities you learn and grow from that. And I like I said earlier, I appreciated the platform they gave me to be on their network. They didn't have to. I respect their work ethic. I respect their hustle. I didn't always agree with what they had to say wrestling-wise, but that was fine. But it was never anything personal. And I think that kind of gets missed through all of this stuff. And we all have different styles of pro wrestling talk. I'm more positive. Some people more look at it from an analytical standpoint. You have people that just like JD from New York who like to trash the show every single week. And then you have the podcasts who look through wrestling through 1970s and the Attitude Era glasses, you know? It's very rare you have shows where you can be a fan of today's wrestling and still appreciate the past instead of be like, you know, back in my day, booking was better this way because of this and that. And I thought that was the cool thing about shows like ours, Rat with That when it was still going on, New Age Insiders. It was about being a fan and enjoying today's wrestling. Whether I agreed or disagreed with Stance how they felt about certain weeks of shows or whatever, that really didn't matter to me at the end of the day. But to seeing that they're going away and going on hiatus when it comes to wrestling talk, I can understand it's not easy. I've been doing wrestling podcasting shows for over 6 years, and it's a grind. It's a big time grind. There's a lot of dedication and sacrifice you got to put into this line of work. Maybe more than you guys realize for those who listen to the show each week. It's not something where I'm just sitting here and talk. There's a lot that goes to these type of shows, and our goal at the end of the day is to make your life better and just show you that it's okay to be a wrestling fan. So for myself, salute to you guys at New Age Insiders for making a name for yourself, and you guys made a brand and community out there. You guys should be proud of what you put into this line of work because it's not easy. A lot of these popular shows are going away now. It's kind of sad, but I'm going to keep pushing forward and keep doing this show for you guys. And I have respect for all you guys at New Age Insiders. So thank you guys for what you did for the wrestling podcasting and just wrestling in general. So salute to you guys. Other things I wanted to mention really quick before we get to this week of wrestling, not just WWE talk. We're coming off the heels of the 18th anniversary of 9/11. My thoughts and condolences are still going out to the families that are affected at the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and United Flight 93. The unfortunate plane crash that happened in the outskirts of Pennsylvania. Very, very sad day for our country. I was starting first grade of elementary school the day of 9/11. I remember like it's yesterday. Being 7 years old, and it's crazy that 18 years has went by that fast because it really doesn't feel like it was that long ago. I know a lot of times here on the show we talk about life and mental health. By the way, this month is Suicide Prevention Month, Suicide Awareness Month. If you know somebody that's dealing with depression, anything, that type of symptom, or really bad mental health problems, reach out to them, be that escape for them more than anything. I think a lot of us, for those who do deal with depression, we need a positive escape instead of people telling you to suck it up and just understand that life is life and it is what it is. The is what it is mindset could only work for certain people for their own realities. Not everybody's blessed to be filled with gazillion dollars in their bank account. Not many people could be blessed with having the dream job they had, or circumstances where families get torn apart, or whatever the situation is. If you're depressed and you have issues, you know, for those who are from the outside looking, don't look down on those people. Reach out to them, give them a hug, talk to them, be that escape for them. And, you know, a lot of today's society is very uptight and we question everything, and everything's the doom and gloom perspective of life. And I'm reflecting back on how it was for me as a kid, and things were more loose and more fun, and you didn't get so offended by everything. Even as a young kid, I could realize at that time where you could say certain things, and not every time you made a joke or something you may seem offensive they didn't have the intentions of being offensive. It's just a lot of people were just uptight. And now with how things happened after 9/11, everybody's on guard. People feel like people are having their weights on their shoulders. People are hovering over you, trying to bring you down every second you can. over self-awareness, a lack of self-awareness is a clash that happens with society today, and I think it's unfortunate. And just reflecting as a kid, times were easy and more smoother now. And I think there has been progress in a way where we're more accepting of people of other races, and it's still not perfect. It still could get a lot better. But, looking at where we are in 2019, the fact that Old Town Road by Lil Nas X and Billy Ray Cyrus is one of the biggest singles of the year, I think that's awesome. Tool, a great band from the 90s, is drawing and creating more revenue than Taylor Swift. By the way, I like Taylor Swift. She's one of the artists that I like that I'm not ashamed to admit that I do like. But it's cool that that type of stuff is being accepted in today's society, and there's a lot of good about society that we have evolved from the way things were in the past. But a lot of the society where we're uptight to a fault and have to question every aspect of life is just kind of sad and unfortunate. So 18 years later, I'm 25 years old. I watched a couple of the documentaries yesterday, chronicling 9/11 as it happened. I remember happening as a kid, and it's a day, obviously, I won't forget, or anybody else in this country will ever forget. And, as much as things are getting divided now, politics and Donald Trump more specifically, just wish there would be more synergy with each other, because there was synergy after the attacks, obviously, and there was a united front, but I think a lot of inner spitefulness and bitterness is still spewing out of our pores as people who were born and raised in America, and it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate, but again, my thoughts are with the families who. Anybody that's ever been negatively affected by this horrible national tragedy, my thoughts are with you guys. And again, just remind everybody, September is Suicide Awareness Month. You can prevent it. Be the escape for somebody that's going through issues, because you never know. You can look at somebody and you think they could be the happiest person on earth, and inside they can feel like the worst thing on earth. I know that struggle of feeling worthless and not being, like I said, being worthless to other people and worthless to myself at times. And this very cruel, afflicted mindset. And my thoughts are with you guys. So let's have some fun, shall we? Let's get to this week of professional wrestling. There's a lot to get to this week. We're going to get to Clash of Champions at the end of this show. Talk about Raw and SmackDown this week from Madison Square Garden. I really enjoyed both this week's Raw and SmackDown Live from MSG. And I got a couple narratives that I want to debunk when it comes to stuff that I observe on social media. For me, wrestling Twitter is useless. Wrestling Twitter is a cesspool in every sense of the word. It's just so toxic for the most idiotic of reasons, if I could be brutally honest with you guys. The arguments in the debates of what's right and what's wrong in a subjective form of entertainment just continues to amaze me as the weeks and shows go by. I'll debunk one narrative right here. The constant vitriol about WWE bringing back stars from the Attitude Era to draw tickets and this and that. In the end of the day, in a wrestling business, it's about making money. And yeah, would you like to have your current stars be the only feature attraction that's selling out these venues? Of course. WWE hasn't done live television at Madison Square Garden since 2009. The last televised or pay-per-view show they've done was Survivor Series 2011. I think what's getting lost in translation is that they brought Stone Cold Steve Austin and Undertaker to MSG not only to sell more tickets for Raw and SmackDown, but kind of like we're sorry, here's a nice surprise for you guys. Here's two of the biggest legends in the history of in this business. And what's getting lost in this is that, oh, here's Stone Cold and he's embarrassing today's wrestlers. Oh, here's The Undertaker and he's stealing the spotlight from so-and-so. If you look at the end of this week's Raw and you think Stone Cold Steve Austin is taken away from Seth Rollins or Braun Strowman or Cedric Alexander, I don't know what to tell you. I'm going to save more of my thoughts for Raw and SmackDown later on. But I do want to start off this week talking about Impact Wrestling. Impact Wrestling made the announcement yesterday, and I got the email, the press release today. Impact Wrestling is moving to AXS TV. This coincides with the Anthem partnership with AXS TV. I'm going to read some of this, and I'm going to give you my thoughts of this major news, because it is news, and I think it's a positive news. So I'm going to read this verbatim, right? Impact Wrestling, a subsidiary of Anthem Sports and Entertainment and one of the world's largest professional wrestling organizations, announced today, is entered into an agreement to broadcast its flagship weekly 2-hour program, Impact, nationally across the U.S. on AXS TV, a leading music, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle channel in which Anthem Sports and Entertainment recently acquired a majority interest. Immediately following Impact Wrestling's biggest pay-per-view event of the year, Bound for Glory, which takes place October 20th in Chicago, Impact will begin airing weekly on AXS TV. The program will continue to simulcast globally on Impact Wrestling's official Twitch channel. There's not a particular date as far as what days Impact will be airing. That's been kind of a side topic I've been trying to mention here on the show over the last couple weeks. We all know what's going on with AEW and NXT. They're about to have some competition on Wednesday nights. SmackDown is making the transition to Fox on Friday nights starting October 4th. By the way, I'm going to be out in Pittsburgh with the good brother Adam Daly that night. That's going to be a lot of fun. We'll get to watch that first SmackDown on Fox together, and that should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. AEW starts on October 2nd, like I said, on TNT. You still got Monday Night Raw on USA on Mondays. There's a nice gap between this new wave of television programming that's going on. NXT's having 2-hour shows now, which I'm very interested to see how that goes. But as far as Impact Wrestling is concerned, I'm glad that we don't have to deal with the Destination Americas of the world or the Pursuit Channel or Pop TV or any of these weird outskirt networks anymore. Now, what sucks for me is that I don't have AXS TV. From where I live, I don't have a subscription to AXS TV. But AXS TV is a legitimate network. And you saw a lot of New Japan Pro Wrestling on that network. And I can only see this as a positive. There's some inner things from a PR standpoint that I know that's been kind of been reported on and kind of been talked down to, and I don't have all the details of that, so it'd be ignorant for me to speak on that. I only interacted with the AXS TV PR team when I had Jim Ross on my old radio show about 3 years ago to promote a Wrestle Kingdom event. So things kind of changed over the last couple years. So I really don't know what's going on currently with AXS TV. As far as the PR team is concerned. But as far as Impact is concerned, I'm just happy for the roster and the people inside that company who are finally going to be able to be on a legitimate network and show everybody what's going on with their style of wrestling. Now, with their style of wrestling, you could get away with certain things on AXS TV that you wouldn't be able to on a CBS or NBC, hell, or even FX or any of these other channels. I've enjoyed the product for the most part for Impact Wrestling this year. Some shows are better than the others, but you get that with every wrestling show that does 52 weeks of television every single year. For the most part, the pay-per-views have been off the charts. The only grab I ever had about Impact this year is the fact that they have their shows starting at 10 p.m. Eastern time on a Friday night. That's it. It's nothing with the shows, there's no backstage stuff besides the Killer Cross situation, which is very, very unfortunate because I'm a big Killer Cross mark, and hopefully that stuff gets situated and figured out because that guy is too talented to not be on national television every single week. So what's going on there, that's an unfortunate blimp that's heading over Impact's head. Again, I'm just very happy for the roster and the people behind the scenes of Impact Wrestling that they're going to have this opportunity to be on AXS TV. I do think it's important to figure out what they are going to be on television, because if you're going to keep doing Impact on Friday nights to follow up on SmackDown, one, I don't know if I'm going to be able to cover it, you know? I think it would be better for their brand to do it on a Thursday night. Hell, maybe even a Saturday night. I don't know. I just don't think the Friday night after the follow-up time slot after SmackDown is a good idea. I really don't. I like Impact's brand. It stands on its own feet. They have very good wrestlers. I love what Sami Callihan's doing. I like Brian Cage as the Impact World Champion. You still have Ty Valkyrie, who I think is one of the most underappreciated performers in all professional wrestling right now. You have the Rascals. You have so many talented performers. Sami Callihan, OVE, my favorite group in Impact Wrestling. The content is not the problem anymore. It was a couple years ago, and we all can be honest about that. The content and the overall direction of Impact was not good a few years ago. But where we are right now, and I think what's important is to focus about right now in the future, I think this is great news for Impact Wrestling, and it's also good news for pro wrestling as well. Because it's not... we can finally drift away from the AEW Kool-Aid session where they're the only company that's getting mainstream network attention. That's not the case now. Now, I get it. TNT comes with your regular standard cable offering, and you have to pay extra to get AXS TV. But if you ask anybody that works at that company and anybody that is an Impact or an old school TNA fan, would you rather have Impact on AXS TV or Impact on Destination America? Is Destination America still on air? I don't know. That's just my question. All right. Let's move on really quick. Let's talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling. I got 2 shows to cover for New Japan coming up this Sunday and Monday as I talk to you here on a Thursday. New Japan is currently on their Destruction Tour. These are fun events that I do every year during this time, during the football season. We have Destruction Tours, and they do 3 specials usually from 3 different places inside Japan. The shows coming up for this weekend, we have one in Beppu. So this is the card for Sunday. Starting off here, you have Yota Tsuji against Carl Fredericks in a Young Lion Cup League match. There's a current Young Lions tournament that's going on right now. Shota Umino will be taking on Alex Coughlin. Third match will be Nagata, Taguchi, Ren Narita, Yua Uemura against Nakamichi, Toa Hinari, Clark Connors, and Michael Richards in a 8-man tag team match. Liger and Roppongi 3K will be taking on Minoru Suzuki, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, and Dookie from Suzuki Gun. We have a 10-man tag team match with Kota Ibushi, Makabe, Honma, Ospreay, and Eagles against Bullet Club members Kenta, Fale, Takahashi, Taiji Ishimori, and El Phantasmo. 6-match Chaos vs. LIJ special. We got Okada, Goto, and Rocky Romero against Sanada, Shingo, and Bushi. That should be a fun match. In the final 3 here, Naito and Evo against Jay White and Chase Owens. We continue hyping up the upcoming Naito Jay White IWGP Intercontinental Championship match that will be happening a week from this Sunday. 8th match, IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team title match. We have the Guerrillas of Destiny taking on Ishii and Yoshihashi. That should be a fun match. And then the main event for the show on Sunday is a rematch from Royal Quest. Hiroshi Tanahashi against Zack Sabre Jr. for the Rev Pro British Heavyweight Championship. And then Monday, you had the Destruction Show in Kagoshima. The Young Lion Cup matches for that is Uemura against Clark Connors and Red Arena against Michael Richards. We have the third match here, Nagata, Taguchi, Umino, and Tsuji against Nakanishi, Tohanari, Carl Fredericks, and Alice Coughlin. Fourth match, Ishii, Hashi, and Roppongi 3K against Guerrillas of Destiny, Bad Luck Fale, and the Spot Picker, Chase Owens. Fifth match, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Togi Makabe, Tomoaki Honma, and Liger against Zack Sabre Jr., Minoru Suzuki, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, and Duki. So Team New Japan against Suzuki Gun. Sixth match, Okada, Hiroki Goto, and Rocky Romero against Sanada, Shingo, and Bushi. Seventh match, kind of a rematch, but a different partner. Naito and Evo against Jay White and Yujiro Takahashi this time. The eighth match will be a IWGP Junior Tag Team Championship match where Will Ospreay and Robbie Eagles takes on Taiji Ichimori and El Phantasmo. That should be a excellent match. And then the main event for Monday, this match is going to be awesome. Kota Ibushi against Kenta was a rematch from night one of this year's G1 Climax tournament. Here's the twist, though. Ibushi's putting his Wrestle Kingdom 14 spot on the line in this match. So that's going to be an awesome match. Ibushi against Kenta. So two very interesting cards for New Japan Pro Wrestling. They got live English commentary on New Japan World this weekend. And you guys know the drill. Every time there's live English commentary, there's a good chance your boy will be transcribing those shows. So excited to get back on the New Japan tip from a transcription standpoint. And I think I've done a good job over the last few years keeping up with the New Japan shows, especially the tours. I think I did both the G1 and the New Japan Cup the last 2 years. And all these extra shows like King of Pro Wrestling, which is coming up in October. So I think I've done a really good job just catching up with what's going on with New Japan and their product. Don't forget, later on at the end of this month, New Japan Pro Wrestling will be having a tour of the East Coast starting Friday, September 27th from the Lowell Memorial Auditorium in Boston, Massachusetts. We have New Japan at the Hammerstein Ballroom the following day. That'll be Saturday, and then they're wrapping it up at the 2300 Arena, the old ECW Arena in Philly on September 29th, which will be a Sunday. So that's your New Japan Pro Wrestling update of the week. Let's see what else I wanted to mention here really quick as I'm curtailing what's going on with wrestling this week. Let's do it this week in WWE, and it's going to be a little different twist because I'm going to be adding my thoughts about 205 Live and NXT UK for this particular episode, okay? We had Raw and SmackDown this week from Madison Square Garden. We are literally 3 days away from Clash of Champions this Sunday, live on the WWE Network from Charlotte, North Carolina. And very excited for this pay-per-view coming up on Sunday. We'll make predictions for that in a couple of minutes, but I want to talk about my highlights from this week of programming, and I'll start off with NXT UK. I love the NXT UK brand. I think those who listen to the podcast every week will know that, and I don't hide my feelings about NXT UK and their audience and their brand of wrestling. It's a lot of fun to watch. So we had the return of Tegan Nox, which was really cool. Tegan Nox finally came back from her horrible stint of injuries over the last couple years and got a wonderful reaction from the crowd. Looks like Tegan Nox is about to get in a rivalry with Kaylee Ray, the NXT UK Women's Champion, which I take my money I'm all in for that type of program. Imperium, one of the best factions in all of pro wrestling right now. I like what they're doing. It's going to be very interesting to see who will be the real legitimate next threat to Walter and his WWE United Kingdom title. As far as the other guys on the faction, I really like Fabian Eichner and Marcel Barthel. Don't be surprised if they start going after Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster. Don't be surprised. Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster retained their titles yesterday against Zach Gibson and James Drake, the Grizzled Young Veterans. By the way, still my favorite team in NXT UK, and I'll say I think Grizzled Young Veterans they're in my top 5 of best tag teams currently in the WWE for my enjoyment point of view. I'm not saying they're the best or this person's not, or I'm not going to engage in that silly type of debate. But from an entertainment and transcription standpoint, I love the Grizzled Young Veterans. I really do. They're very entertaining to watch, and I love transcribing their matches. So that's pretty much it from NXT UK. I really enjoyed the show. I haven't watched this week's NXT yet, but I did see for the first episode, which will be live this Wednesday, not 4 title matches, but 3. You got the Street Profits against Undisputed Era. You got Roderick Strong against Velveteen Dream. You have a triple threat match for number 1 contender spot for the women's title, which is really cool. And then you got Killian Dane and Matt Riddle in street fight. So I'm very curious to see how this next transition is for NXT on the USA Network. I do think this is a good move for NXT. I really do. I know a lot of people are concerned, and this is another narrative I could debunk right here. I knew I wanted to debunk 2 narratives today, but this will be the second one. The constant concern about whether or not Vince McMahon is going to water down NXT. Believe it or not, with the exception of takeovers, I don't think every episode of NXT is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I think I've been consistent with that. And I think I've been one of the few guys that do shows like this that doesn't kiss Triple H's ass for everything he does with his shows. Now, that's not to say that I don't enjoy the NXT brand, because I do. But I do think NXT does need a spicing up when it comes to their weekly programming. And yeah, I get it. There's a lot of things that goes into NXT's favor that Raw and SmackDown cannot do, because NXT was a 1-hour show on the WWE Network that's not answering to anybody but WWE Network, because it's their own network and they have their own rules. And I think that gets lost with a lot of the dirt sheet writers and people that do podcasts, where you think everything's on an even playing field, and everything Triple H does is right, and everything that Vince McMahon does is wrong. Which I don't think is the case, because again, we're talking about a subjective form of entertainment. So I do think that the weekly episodes of NXT had to get better. And they had the luxury where they didn't have to showcase Johnny Gargano or Adam Cole every single week. While it may look good for the casual fan that doesn't watch NXT every week, everybody says every time anybody comes up from NXT up to the main roster, they don't know how to gather themselves on weekly television, and Vince waters them down. Everybody gets buried when you get called up from NXT to the main roster. And I think the issue that comes with that is it overexposure with the certain guys on Raw and SmackDown? Yes and no. But also, how can anybody that's been watching Raw and SmackDown for over 20 years get hooked to a guy like a Johnny Gargano if they only see him once a month before a TakeOver special? Or maybe 2 episodes of NXT before the next TakeOver special, because they space it out. I'm not saying that you need to have these guys on the show every single week, but if you want these guys to connect on a bigger level when you're on Raw and SmackDown, you have to have these guys have more exposure. There's only so much exposure you can get on the WWE Network. And I'm sorry, this upset wrestling Twitter, but if you really think about it, do you really think that the common discussions about pro wrestling on Twitter really curtails the viewership of what's going on with all these shows and what draws and what doesn't? Because I saw that AEW had, I don't know, what was it, 28,000 people that bought All Out? I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm not saying that's a good thing either. My bigger point is, because you see a narrative on Twitter doesn't mean it's true. Especially when it comes to pro wrestling. I could go talk about to the cows go home about how silly sports fans are on Twitter, especially living here in the city of Chicago. The most insecure fan base in the entire world are Chicago sports fans, and I'm saying that as a Chicago sports fan. And I'm kind of embarrassed of where our city is right now as a fan base, but that's another show for another time. So I'm glad that we're gonna have competition. All right, everybody's happy now. We're all getting their little competition. We get our little Wednesday night wars. But again, let's watch these shows. Let's see these talents grow and prosper, not only on NXT, but also on AEW. And let's take it 1 week at a time. If you want to do the ratings battle, and you want to relive the late 1990s like I did when I was a kid when I first started watching wrestling, go knock your socks off. But I ask for anybody that listens to this show or follow me on social media, don't tell me how I'm supposed to feel about where certain shows and where certain companies are at. I can speak for myself. I don't need you to speak for me. All right? Jeez. All right, let's talk about Raw and SmackDown this week. Always a great time to see Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think the best part about seeing Stone Cold was the interaction he had with AJ Styles. There was only one mistake I thought WWE should have done this week on television was to have the OC fight Braun Strowman and Seth Rollins for the tag titles and get their rematch. I know I know a couple months ago they said they're not going to do rematches and this and that, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. But, and I'm not saying I'm not looking forward to a match with Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman against Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode, but I don't think Seth and Braun need 2 title matches to justify their program. But regardless, let's just say this. I don't think by the end of this week Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman will be Raw Tag Team Champions. I think we all could agree with that, right? So, just the interaction with Stone Cold Steve Austin with AJ Styles, that was a lot of fun. Match-wise, things that stood out to me. First off, the four horsewomen tag team match was really good. I liked it. It was a lot of fun to transcribe. There was a lot of good wrestling this week when it came to WWE, and I think I've been consistent about it here on the show and saying that, yeah, while maybe certain storyline plot points or certain angles may be hit and miss when it comes to WWE, one thing is you don't get bad wrestling on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown Live. You don't. I can tell you from experience with transcribing the shows each week, if you count all the brands of WWE, NXT UK, 205 Live, NXT, Raw, or SmackDown Live, you're going to find a good match, or maybe 2, in each show that you watch. I guarantee it. And that's just how good and talented the roster is right now. Here you go. Let's rattle off a couple of matches that really stood out to me this week. Rey Mysterio and Grand Metalik. Andrade and The Miz from SmackDown this week. The triple threat match to the semifinals for the King of the Ring tournament. For the Raw side, King Corbin defeating Ricochet and Samoa Joe. Awesome match. And by the way, shout out to the MSG crowd for doing the 50-50 split with Baron Corbin, because that was all the justification I needed for me as a guy who kind of gets crap for being a Baron Corbin fan. That tells you everything you need to know. You got a New York audience at MSG. Everybody says that's the biggest arena to dictate where which talents are over or not. Or you hear the stories from wrestlers in the past. If you get over at the Garden, you can get over anywhere. So the guy that is ruining Monday Night Raw to certain people that I know that would say that on social media, this dude had a "Let's go Corbin, Corbin sucks" chant going on. Think about that. The guy is good at his job, and he do not want to admit it. It goes with the same thing with Roman Reigns. It happened with John Cena. Baron Corbin is good at his job, and you do not want to admit it. Let's just be honest about it, guys. So I was very happy for Corbin. I am going with Baron Corbin to win the King of the Ring tournament. He will fight Chad Gable. Chad Gable had to go through Shane McMahon shenanigans to get into the finals, but I think we all knew one way or another Chad Gable was going to get into the finals. Fortunate news for Elias, who I heard broke his ankle. That's unfortunate. I never broke my ankle, but I did sprain my ankle, and just speaking from experience of having ankle issues, it's not fun. So my thoughts are with Elias right now. But Baron Corbin and Chad Gable this Monday on Raw will be the finals of the King of the Ring tournament, and that match is going to be awesome. I can't wait for it. Other matches that stood out to me this week. I'm trying to pick out the litter here. Like I said, there was a lot of good matches this week. I enjoyed the Bayley Ember Moon match from SmackDown this week, you know. Again, I just like where things are going right now when it comes to the upcoming pay-per-view. Clash of Champions, the Kofi Kingston, Randy Orton program has been a lot of fun to watch. They got to relive the moment that happened 10 years ago on SmackDown this week, which was cool. The audience got into it, and that was cool. So, again, I thought WWE had a very successful week at MSG, and I'm very excited to see how things go down in Charlotte this Sunday for Clash of Champions. Before we make our predictions for Clash of Champions, right now we're going to hear a couple clips from our sponsors, and we'll be right back right here on the Hoots Podcast. All right. Ladies and germs, it is time to talk about Clash of Champions and make our predictions for this pay-per-view this Sunday live on the WWE Network. I know they made the announcement that Baron Corbin and Chad Gable are fighting on Monday instead of Sunday. One thing I did forget to mention from Raw and SmackDown this week, again, how can you go wrong with the Firefly Funhouse? That stuff is just awesome. Like, Bray Wyatt, you're a freaking genius, man. I love you. All right, Clash of Champions. Here we go. We have 11 matches on the card. I'm going to breeze through this as quick as I can, but this will be our final segment of the show this week. Bayley will be putting her SmackDown Women's title on the line against Charlotte Flair. I think Charlotte is winning. I think Charlotte will win in her hometown. Actually, correction, I think Bayley is going to beat Charlotte. It can look like a foregone conclusion that Charlotte can win. Also, this is also one of the matches where I don't care who wins. Like, either woman can win this match. And again, I think some of the decisions for this pay-per-view will kind of give you a glimpse of where certain talents are going when it comes to this transition from Fox, from USA to Fox. This pay-per-view is going to be very interesting because next one, Hell in the Cell, is a couple days after the 20th anniversary of SmackDown, which will be the first episode on Fox. So, this Sunday is going to be a big show. I'm looking forward to it. Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman against Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler. I mentioned it earlier. I think Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler will be your new Raw Tag Team Champions. Kofi Kingston against Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. I think Kofi retains. But if this feud continues on to Hell in a Cell, don't be surprised if Randy Orton tries to attack one of Kofi's family members. It'll be important to see if any of Kofi Kingston's family will be sitting at ringside. So you have to keep your eye out for that. We'll see what happens on that end. But I do think Kofi will retain. again, you can also don't be surprised if it ends with a DQ if Kofi again gets himself too emotional like he did at SummerSlam. We'll see what happens, but I do think Kofi will retain. Drew Gulak against Humberto Carrillo and Lince Dorado. It's an easy call for me. I think Drew Gulak will retain the Cruiserweight title, but that should be a fun match. New Day against a Revival for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. I think New Day retains. I was kind of surprised that neither the New Day or the Revival are on the show this week. By the way, speaking of stuff that stood out to me this week, Otis Dosovich is a star. That dude is freaking hilarious. I love that dude. Shinsuke Nakamura against The Miz for the Intercontinental Championship. I think Nakamura will win that match and retain. Roman Reigns against Eric Rowan. No disqualification match is pretty easy. I'll go with Roman Reigns. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross against Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. This should be a good match. I actually got Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville winning this one, actually. So I think the title's going to change hands on Sunday for that end. AJ Styles against Cedric Alexander for the WWE United States Championship. I got AJ Styles retaining, but in a very, very fun, entertaining match. Becky Lynch against Sasha Banks for the Raw Women's Championship. I think Sasha Banks will be your brand new Raw Women's Champion. As much as it hurts me to say this because I'm not the biggest Sasha Banks fan in the world, I think anybody that listens to the show will be surprised with my prediction on that end. But I do think Sasha Banks will beat Becky Lynch. And I think this is a program that's going to be a long program through the rest of this fall. Finally, the main event of the pay-per-view, Seth Rollins against Braun Strowman for the WWE Universal Championship. I have Seth Rollins retaining. It'll be interesting to see where these go. Will this cause Braun Strowman to turn into a bad guy? I have absolutely no idea. But I do think Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman will put on an entertaining match to close out the pay-per-view. So, again, we got 11 matches on the show for Clash of Champions on Sunday. I know everybody's excited that football's back. I'm excited that football's back too. And it should be a good day. So I'm very excited for this pay-per-view on Sunday. And on that note, we're going to put a ribbon on the bow on this week's edition of the Hoots Podcast. Make sure to like this video on YouTube and follow our YouTube channel, youtube.com/the Hoots Podcast. You can also follow the show and listen to the show on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play. Anywhere you get your podcast from, we're available for you guys to listen. More importantly, for those who do listen to the show every single week, we thank you for the support, good brothers and good sisters. But more importantly, we want you guys to leave us a review. Let us know what you think about the podcast. Anything we can do to make it better or more enjoyable for you, we'll do it and take it under consideration. Like I said, leave us a review. I want to know how you guys generally feel about the podcast, and your feedback is very important to myself and Adam. You can follow me on Twitter at the Hoots Podcast. I'm on Instagram, Joshie Lopez 94 at Josh Lopez Music as well if you want to see my guitar covers. And then finally, ProWrestlingTransfusions.com. I will be transcribing Clash Champions and the two New Japan Destruction shows. So, very excited for that. On that note, I'm Josh Lopez. You can call me Joshie. But thank you guys so much for checking out episode 172 of the Hoots Podcast. Have a wonderful weekend. Go Bears. Enjoy Clash Champions, and we'll review it for you next week.